Looking for some digital magic to help you through your week? The Kingdom Report is here for you, covering the latest Disneyland and Disney World news, experiences, and events. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Kingdom Report Live so you never miss an update. And drop a subscribe on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel for new videos every week. Don't miss out. Join this growing community of theme park fans as we aim to connect you to more of what makes you happy. For more information, visit KingdomReportLive.com. And now, back to the magic.
Disney News Talk Live, a special edition of the broadcast here for you on what might just be one of the biggest Disney news days in a very long time. Hey everyone, Wade for the Kingdom Report, back with you once again, covering all the latest headlines, trending topics, big news, and stories coming out of the Disneyland Resort today specifically, as that seems to be where all the news is originating out of at the moment, and we are going to tackle everything that's going on. Ticket prices are up. Parking prices are up. Disneyland Trams, thank goodness they're coming back. And then on top of that, a sold-out Magic Key already. Can you believe it? I am in shock myself. There's so much to get to, so much to talk about, but it means an awful lot that you could join me in this impromptu evening edition of Disney News Talk Live. This is something that we will do occasionally when big news days happen and everybody wants to get their feelings out and share their thoughts and opinions. We will definitely bring a Disney News Talk Live together just for you. Hey, before we get things off and rolling officially, I do want to make sure that everybody is locked in and locked on. So if you have not done so already, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. That way, you don't miss any of the updates that we put out. Did put out a Disneyland in-park update today, getting quite the reaction already. Lots of things that we covered just in that alone from this weekend. And now, all these news stories happen literally overnight and into today. So like I said, so much to talk about and so many things in which to share. If you are somebody who appreciates what it is that we are doing here, make sure to drop a thumbs up. That means an awful lot. And the notification bell, if you are subscribed, that does need to be rung that way. If there is an update, if there is something new and breaking, you are alerted the moment that it happens. Okay, hey, before we dive too far into things, I also want to make sure that we get your opinion on the best places to eat in and around the Disneyland Resort. If you are somebody that makes a trip out to Disneyland ever so often, you no doubt have some spots. This is just a question I'd like to get out there to start things off with. We will get to the news. We will touch on all the things that are happening, I promise. But right off the bat, share with me, where do you eat when you visit Disneyland? Are you an on-site person? Are you an off-site person? Are there restaurants not at the Disneyland Resort that you have to stop at when you come to Disneyland, specifically because it's tradition or maybe it's a hidden gem? You know, we were talking during the last broadcast of Disney News Talk Live about some of the hotels that folks like to stay in, whether it be Disney Resort hotels or off-site hotels from coast to coast, and that was very illuminating. I figure, why not ask a question like this? It might be helpful for anybody that's tuned in and listening to know about some off-site spots that are worth eating at, and maybe some on-site gems that people just don't think about. So share with us in the comment section, whether you're watching on Facebook Live or on YouTube, what it is that you like to dive into food-wise at the Disneyland Resort, on-site or off-site. Where do you eat, and which meal? Very interested in hearing what's on your mind. All right, so as mentioned, there is a lot happening when it comes to the Disney newsdom today. Big stories, including what we covered earlier this weekend in the in-park update that we put out just this afternoon, as a matter of fact. Lots of things going on in the park, on top of lots of things happening with Disney making announcements. So there's things that Disney isn't acknowledging that we were covering in our in-park update today here on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel. You can check that out after this broadcast. Definitely, it is our goal to bring you up to date every week as to what's changing, what's transpiring in the parks, especially the stuff that Disney is not acknowledging. And then in addition to that, a lot of announcements have happened in the last 24 hours. Disney just decided to basically drop a bomb on everybody and take Disneyland in a direction of charging the heck out of you for various elements of the theme park experience all of a sudden, even as the parks, by their own admission, aren't fully reopened yet. How about that? So at any rate, there is a lot to talk about and a lot of opinions that I am looking to you for, because I know that you have a lot on your mind. I have seen it in our comment section already on various videos, not even touching on these subjects. People are fired up. People are concerned. We're seeing it on our social media channels as well. You know, granted, every time Disney raises ticket prices, people get upset, right? Like, that's a given. We understand that that's coming every time ticket prices go up. But this time in particular, when you have theme parks that are not even fully reopened yet by their own admission, it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. Yeah. But at any rate, we will get into all of your thoughts, all of your opinions, everything that we are looking for from you will be coming very soon as we dive into each story individually. But first and foremost, I was looking over to all of you as to some of the places that you like to dine at when you come to Disneyland. You know, Terry Thompson is chiming in saying that must have calamari from the Uva Bar and Matterhorn macaroon and Dole Whip in the summer. Oh, some must-go-to eats. And you know, that Uva Bar, I feel like, doesn't get enough play. It's always hopping, but you don't hear anybody really talking about it, especially online. So, Uva Bar, great suggestion. I appreciate that. D chimes in saying, the last time we were at Disneyland, we ate at Norm's and loved it. Well, you gotta eat at Norm's. Norm, as they say. That national chain is certainly something that is very cost-effective, and you can't go wrong with all the tasty treats at that greasy spoon known as Norm's, that's for sure. Timothy says, I always stay on site. You can't go wrong with Lamplight Lounge. Timothy, thank you for that. You know what? And we have a review up of the Lamplight Lounge brunch experience. By the way, if you've never eaten at Lamplight Lounge at California Adventure for brunch, that is definitely something to check out. I had the chilaquiles as well as a beer mosa during my trip, and I review all of it for you here on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel. Definitely something worth checking out if you are interested in heading on over to the Lamplight Lounge. Ross says, off-site, down to the Little Saigon area in Westminster. Great tip. Yeah, if you have a rental car or maybe you want to jump in an Uber, that might be well worth your time. We also see Richard chiming in with Bengal barbecue, always. Yes, always is right. Very good, Richard. My asparagus and bacon, oh my gosh, I can taste it already. Thank you for chiming in. And then, of course, Albert says, I like staying at the Hilton by the Convention Center, but I also like the Homewood Suites, Homewood Suites, which has a free breakfast buffet, full kitchens and all suites, and it's right next to the Toy Story lot. Albert, not only a great recommendation for hotels, but also a tremendous recommendation for that free grub. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. All right, let's not waste any more time. I do believe it is a moment where together we can dive into the very first story, and that is all about tram service returning to Disneyland. Yes, we've been complaining about it for months. In recent broadcasts, I believe the very last Disney News Talk Live where we came together, it was like our top story. What the heck is going on? It's created a bit of a nightmare scenario for a lot of people. You have to walk that near mile to and from the Disneyland Resort main entrance, a combined mile. It's just such a burden, especially when you are trying to walk back at the end of the night. That is a heck of a walk and a lot to take on, especially when you are exhausted. The least that could be done is have the tram service back in effect. Well, guess what? Disney announced that officially the trams are returning. Let's dive in to our first story. The following comes to us from the Orange County Register. Brady McDonald writes, "The end is near for Disneyland visitors tired of huffing and puffing along the nearly mile-long tram route between the parking garages and the front gates as the Anaheim theme park prepares to bring back the trams that have been out of commission since March 2020. Tram service between the Mickey and Friends and Pixar Palace parking garages and the front gates of Disneyland and California Adventure will return in early 2022, according to Disneyland. Disneyland continues to slowly add capacity and make operational adjustments during the phased reopening of the resort. The Anaheim theme park will conduct maintenance on the parking trams and rehire staff during the next few months. Furious Disneyland fans have taken to social media to vent their anger and frustration at the continued tramless tram route, calling the, quote, death march an absolute killer. Quote, "The walk back to parking from Disneyland is brutal," Joanna Marie wrote on Twitter. "Bring the trams back ASAP." The parking trams will provide Disneyland guests with additional options in how they access the theme parks, according to Disneyland officials. Disneyland asked visitors to walk the tram route starting in mid-March during a Touch of Disney Food Festival and kept the practice in place when the parks fully reopened with rides in late April. One key alternative to the long tram walk, the Disneyland Monorail, reopened in mid-October. The Toy Story surface parking lot reopened in June with bus service to and from the parks. The parking trams and monorail were kept out of service in part due to continuing COVID-19 health and safety crowding concerns. Not operating the trams and monorail also saves on labor and maintenance expenses, a key cost savings consideration for Disneyland after a year-long coronavirus closure of the parks. Once again, many thanks to Brady McDonald at the OC Register for those words. So the tram service returning early 2022. We don't necessarily have a confirmed date, but it is on its way back. I think there's a lot to consider when you imagine what Disney has to do to get these things back online. Obviously, the tram and sort of resort transportation and parking team, that's a very big group of cast members. That's a huge staff. And so, no doubt, as mentioned in the story, Disney is going back to the well and trying to hire back those individuals, get them back in action so that they can start setting things up and being prepared, go through training, all of that. In addition, there's also getting the vehicles themselves up to date and making sure that all of the trams are completely in a good state of operation. If you have not yet seen my Disneyland in-park update for this week, even the one last week when the monorail first came back, I share some pretty disheartening information. I share some pretty unfortunate visuals, and that is that the poor monorail is in a state of just... It's disgusting. I was kind of appalled. I was truly surprised when it came to seeing exactly what the monorail looked like, and that's not something that I'm used to seeing at Disneyland. Walt Disney World's a different story. Not to knock the East Coast counterpart here, but Walt Disney World, I'm used to seeing monorails that are in dilapidated states and have doors falling off, and are in a situation where they are very much not well maintained because they are used to death. Whereas the Disneyland versions, not only are they far newer, right? They only bought the monorails for Disneyland here. What was it, 10, 12 years ago? I mean, they bought in a new version of the monorail specifically for Disneyland. They aren't run like they are in Walt Disney World, to death for the sake of transportation. It's really more of an attraction at Disneyland. Yes, it picks up over by the hotels in downtown Disney and brings people in, but it's a small route, and they usually close the monorail early in the day for the sake of fireworks and stuff like that. So at any rate, the monorail back in its current state is really disheartening, because not only were panels falling off inside the cabins, multiple cabins, I went into multiple cabins, especially on Monorail Red, the outside of the monorail looks like it hasn't been cleaned in 2 years. I mean, I don't know where they kept this thing, but it's like nobody went in with a broom. Nobody walked in with a simple wash rag. It was so sad to see this beautiful monorail in such a decomposed state, and it was just shoved out there for everybody to get into. So knowing that, I'm kind of nervous about what the trams look like at this point, just because of the monorail experience here. So very disappointed to see that the monorail was being treated as such, especially, our newer monorails out here at Disneyland, which have been usually and I think routinely in much better shape. But we will see what needs to happen when it comes to the tram service and exactly how much needs to be elevated for the sake of mechanics on the tram service too. We've heard rumors now for months that the trams were offline because wiring was chewed through by rats, and they were in a state of disrepair themselves, and there were no parts, and they couldn't be brought back. And we've heard all of these rumors, all of these things that realistically, I have to say, there's been no found evidence on any of that information, just that it's a lot of speculation, right? It's a lot of rumors that that's what's going on. And then out at Walt Disney World, remember, trams aren't being used there either. So both coasts, no trams, no tram service, either coast. So what's the deal? What's going on? This is where I turn it on over to you. I need to know what you think. So when it comes to the trams returning in 2022, early 2022, they tell us, what do you think is holding up Walt Disney World's trams from returning at this point? So now they've admitted that they're going to bring the trams back to Disneyland on the day that they kicked up the cost of parking. That's good optics, I guess. But now Walt Disney World's trams are sitting there waiting for the sake of what? Are they going to raise parking out there too? I don't understand now. If you're announcing Disneyland's are coming back, when is Walt Disney World's tram service coming back? I'm interested in hearing what you think when it comes to Walt Disney World's trams. Are they returning before, after, spring of next year? What do you think is going on with the Walt Disney World tram service at this point? Especially now that we finally have Disney on record as telling us that, that hike from the Mickey and Friends parking structure to the main entrance and back, it could be a bit much. We're going to give you that tram service back. Let us know in the comment section what you think in terms of the Walt Disney World tram service returning and when specifically it'll be brought back online. All right, up next, we are going to be sharing with you a little bit about how Magic Keys are, not just controversial as they have been in recent weeks, where people haven't been able to find reservations to get back into Disneyland for that annual pass program, right? They can't find reservations for almost all the weekends through the end of the year. They can't find reservations when it comes to certain weekdays that they'd like to, go visit on. Well, now a Magic Key is sold out for the first time ever. What does that mean? Oh, we are going to get into that and so much more right after this.
Bowman, pass off bow line. Engine room, ahead 1 quarter. Engine room, ahead 3 quarters. Ledsman, sound off. Mark the mark. On 1.
That's the ledsman calling out the depth marking so we can avoid running aground.
Mark 20.
It also means the water here is 2 fathoms deep. That means it's safe enough for us to proceed on our steam-powered journey along the rivers of America. On our trip, we'll visit the magnificent Columbia of the Great Northwest, the graceful Missouri of the windswept plains, and the rugged Rio Grande along the border of Texas and Mexico. I'll be sure to point out interesting sights along the way, and even tell you about a legend or two. We begin our trip right here on the mighty Mississippi, heading south and ending up down in New Orleans.
Disney News Talk Live, thanks so much for being a part of this evening broadcast on a big Disney News Day, no doubt. Lots to still touch on here in this show. And by the way, if you haven't done so already, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel with that notification bell turned on. And on top of all of that, Kingdom Report Live on social media is the place where you can follow us for all of our breaking updates and anything that we're covering out there that maybe Disney isn't acknowledging. Hey, just before the break, I asked, what do you think when it comes to tram service Walt Disney World? We now have an official, at least, time frame from Disneyland as to when the tram service is returning. We heard, hey, it's coming back early 2022. Great to know. But what about Walt Disney World? It's been out of commission this entire time. Also, people are having to hoof it in at Epcot and places like Magic Kingdom as well. So what's going on? What do you think in terms of the trams at Walt Disney World? Ross says, a tram ride will be a Genie Plus attraction, you know? Maybe that's what they're saving it for at Walt Disney World. That's very clever. So maybe it's going to be added on to the Genie Plus experience. Yep. Lightning lane onto the tram, ladies and gentlemen. That might just be. Dee shares her thoughts saying, hearing the current condition of the monorail breaks my heart. Yeah, like I said, if you haven't seen it already, our Disneyland in-park update from this past week is It's something to see it in person, and we showcase exactly what we're talking about when it comes to the condition of the monorail at Disneyland. It is very disappointing, to say the least. Dan chimes in saying, my guess would be lack of staffing when it comes to the Walt Disney World tram service and why it has not returned at this point. Diane feels the same way, saying staffing and keeping costs down. Even that Orange County Register article that I was reading here just a bit ago, they even acknowledge, obviously, this has allowed Disney to save a bundle when it comes to staffing and operating costs, keeping the trams offline. So, at any rate, it's on its way back. Samantha says the Disney company is killing the magic and is becoming all about the money. We're hearing this more and more, especially as the Genie Plus service was introduced, and people are seeing exactly what is being upcharged all over the place. Samantha, I'm sorry that you're feeling this way. You are not the only one. We're seeing it reflected in a lot of comments at the moment. And Terry says, really loved riding the Disneyland monorail, but not if I must bring my own 409 spray. Sad face. Yeah, Terry, I don't disagree. I felt like I had to bust out some of my own Purell at that point, just sitting there. You don't want to touch anything in these monorail cabins at Disneyland because they are so grotesque, and I just don't know how it was allowed to go out on the beam that way. But that's the situation we find ourselves in now. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in, sharing your thoughts when it comes to the Disneyland Trams returning early 2022. We now move in to another big story that happened, and my goodness, who would have ever thought that we were going to hear this soon? But a Magic Key, that's right, the new annual pass program at Disneyland, a Magic Key has already sold out. Which one, and what does it mean for the future of Magic Key reservations? And on top of that, this tier that sold out too. What does it mean for anybody that wanted to buy one in the future? Let's jump in to that story. The following comes to us from LA Daily News. They write, Disneyland has sold out of the top-priced Magic Key after just 2 months, as complaints from angry pass holders continue to echo throughout social media about the widespread lack of reservations available for the $1,399 pass with no blockout dates. The Dream Key has proven very popular and is currently sold out, with the other Magic Keys, the Believe Key, Enchant Key, and Imagine Key, remaining on sale at this time, according to Disneyland. Disneyland will continue to monitor the Believe Key, Enchant Key, and Imagine Key and make adjustments as needed to deliver a great guest experience, according to Disneyland officials. All Disneyland key holders who purchased a Magic Key, including current Dream Key holders, will continue to have access to pass holder benefits like the Magic Key Terrace, specialty merchandise, select discounts, and the upcoming Magic Key Month. The new Magic Key annual passes went on sale August 25th, with Disneyland offering a free swag box for new key holders, which, by the way, still have not received. Point of order. Back to the story, though. Who purchased a pass during the first 66 days in honor of the park's 66th anniversary. The $1,399 Dream Key sold out before reaching the end of the 66-day initial sales drive. Prices for the new Magic Key annual passes range from $399 for the Imagine Key, with the most blockout dates, of course, to $1,399 for the Dream Key with no blockout dates. The highest priced Magic Key still available is now the $949 Believe Key, with the Enchant Key costing $649. Magic Key reservations have been frequently unavailable on weekends and holidays through the end of the year, and near-term dates stretching for weeks have been completely sold out to annual pass holders still looking for a reservation. In contrast, the daily ticket calendar often shows availability on virtually all weekdays, weekends, and holidays, with a few near-term dates sold out. Disneyland's loyal fan base has grown increasingly furious over the apparent prioritization of daily ticket buyers over annual pass holders. Quote, "The Dream Key is more like a nightmare key," Jane Friday wrote on Instagram. "It's an unbelievable amount of money to spend to have nothing but weekday reservations available." Close quote. The separate Magic Key and daily ticket online calendars are dynamic and constantly changing, which means unavailable reservations can become available again at any time. Last year's closure of the launch of the new Magic Key program are generating strong demand during the always popular limited time fall and winter holiday seasons, according to Disneyland officials. The vast majority of key holders say they are able to get just as much, if not more, access to the parks than they expected when they signed up, according to Disneyland officials. I don't know who's saying that, because I certainly don't know anybody that feels that way. The story continues by saying Disneyland is managing attendance by leveraging its theme park reservation system that requires advance reservations for Magic Key holders and day guests to help provide a great guest experience for all and spread out visitation, according to Disney officials. Key holders can visit either Disneyland or California Adventure any day their passes are not blocked out, and reservations are available. Key holders can make 2, 4, or 6 reservations at a time in a 90-day window, depending on their pass type. Once more, thank you, dailynews.com, for that story. So now we know an annual pass, the new Magic Key program, is sold out for the first time since the Magic Key program has been introduced. This is wild, to say the least, and I know that a lot of people, were kind of holding out, at least some folks that I've talked to, were kind of holding out to see how the Magic Key program was going to go first. We've watched as it's been very turbulent, right? We've covered it in these very shows on Disney News Talk Live, where we've even talked about how reservations are being snatched up months in advance. People are squatting on reservations. There's no availability on any times that people want to go. And now the Dream Key, the highest tier key, is out of commission. The one key with no blockout dates is out of commission. You can't even buy it. Fascinating that it was this quick And now the top tier pass is gone. Not something you can even purchase at this point. So does that change anything for the Dream Key holders? Realistically, I don't think so. I think they're still going to be beholden to the reservation system where they are not going to see any sort of real flexibility in having more reservation windows available. Now, certainly, we've learned that there are buckets for each category of Dream Key, as well as I mentioned in the story, park ticket guests, right? Day ticket guests, people that buy a ticket to go in that day. There's obviously a lot more availability for those folks than there ever is for the Magic Key annual pass holder crowd. And each designated key, Dream, Believe, Imagine, and Beyond, all have their own allotment of reservations available that they can choose from to come and visit Disneyland or California Adventure. So the Dream Key, said to have no blockouts, continues to have the problem of not being able to book a reservation because they are blocked out because of capacity restrictions still. So my question to all of you at this point is, with the Dream Key now sold out, will park reservations become easier to obtain? And I know it sounds contradictory to what I just said, but hear me out. Do you think that Disney is, because this is a bold move. I mean, this is a big deal for Disney to just admit this quick, hey, the Dream Key sold out. This thing isn't available anymore. So those of you that got it, congratulations. This isn't something anybody else can buy moving forward, at least for now. So I don't know when this Dream Key is going to be, an option to be reopened down the line, because certainly they'll start selling it again at some point. But I think they hit their quota for 2021. I don't think this Dream Key is going to be available anytime soon. And so now, do you think that this is a stopgap, a hard stop, if you will, so that reservations can become easier to obtain? Certainly in the last couple of weeks, we've watched as attendance feels like it has been increased substantially, right? Capacity has become very thick in recent weeks. Gone are the days of the quiet nobody at Disneyland August that we experienced, a dream, really. And most recently, we have seen what feels like a packed to the gills park experience. No Fast Pass available, right? Fast Pass still not something that's being offered. We're waiting for Genie Plus to roll out at Disneyland. Still no announcement as to when specifically that will happen. So now we are experiencing 35, 55, 75-minute waits. All of those are accurate wait times based on everything that we have witnessed ourselves in recent weeks. Are they stopping the sale of a Dream Key now for the sake of opening up more reservations moving forward? Do you think that this was a stopgap to do that? Be very interested in hearing what you think. And on top of that, are we going to see anytime soon another key fall to the wayside? I am in the next category. I am a Believe Key holder. I specifically got the Believe Key. I've shared this on many broadcasts. I specifically got the Believe Key because the dates that are blocked out throughout the calendar year are dates I probably wouldn't visit anyway, right? 2 weeks of Christmas, you got to be kidding me. It's insanity. It's pandemonium inside the parks during that time. I don't want to go. I don't want to visit during that time. So there are some handfuls of periods throughout the year where those reservations are not available. Okay, so that's fine. That's why I chose the Believe Key. I pay a little bit less. Do you think the Believe Key is next to go? Do you think now everyone's going to leave the Dream Key pile because they don't have an option anymore? Nobody's going to be able to buy it, so they're all going to come for the Believe Key next. I got to say at this point, I guess I'm kind of glad that I bought when I did, because now it looks like these things are slowly going to shut down, or maybe quickly. Who knows how fast this will go? I didn't think the Dream Key would sell out, especially in the first 3 months of being available. This is wild. This is a whole new Disneyland frontier, that's for certain. At any rate, let us know in the comments section what you're thinking. Is there going to be potentially more reservations to come? Will they be easier to obtain in the very near future now that the Dream Key is now sold out as part of the Disneyland Annual Pass program? And you stick around. Lots more to talk about, including parking and ticket prices going up after the break. Disney News Talk Live. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Wade for the Kingdom Report, and this is all about your opinion, your Disney Parks experience, what's going through your mind on one of the biggest Disneyland news days we have ever seen, especially in the modern era, the pandemic era, if you will, where so much is happening after such a short amount of time of Disneyland being back open, the theme parks reopening earlier this past spring, and now by fall, major seismic shifts are happening all over the place. Asked you just before we took our little break there about whether or not you thought reservations were going to become, park reservations that is, a little bit more plentiful now that the Dream Key, the highest tier of the annual pass, is sold out. Is that something that you think is going to alleviate some of the congestion that we're seeing now that annual pass holders are complaining they can't get a reservation to save their lives between now and the end of the year, especially on weekends, holidays, that sort of thing? Well, you have responded, and Valeria says, swag box hasn't arrived. They probably put capacity limits on those also, lol. Yes, very clever. Yeah, my swag box, as mentioned in the story, if you are somebody that purchased a magic key within a first so many days, you know, the 66-day thing, you were going to be getting yourself a Magic Key swag box as part of sort of the, I guess, entry-level club, right? You were part of the beginners club of the Magic Key program, and I mentioned that I have not yet received mine, still at this point, and you're probably right. Capacity limits on those are no doubt what is causing not only the delay, I probably won't receive it, period, at this point. Thank you so much for that. Very clever. Terry says, wow, they're really having problems with that capacity reservation algorithm. Retire a key in less than 3 months out? I know, Terry. It's wild to me, too, to think that we are now in this situation where a key is gone in less than 3 months. What does that mean for the rest of the keys? Will this create a stampede of people to the rest of the keys now? Is this a supply and demand thing that's about to happen? Are we about to see a crazy stampede go to all the other keys? Be very interesting to say the least. Ross says, how about a drink key? All you can drink. Well, they'd have to open up a few more alcoholic options at the resort for that in order to work, I think. T. McGee says, hey, Wade, are there any updates on the new DVC tower? I'm really hoping it will help with the availability issues for Grand Californian villas. The only updates that we have are basically what we can see, nothing from Disney's end. In the in-park update that we did this week, I was able to show you exactly what it looks like on the other side of the walls over at the Disneyland Hotel right next to the Frontier Tower and the new DVC tower that's being built. It's still a pile of dirt. We got a long ways to go, unfortunately. We also have, we also have SJ chiming in saying, but how many Dream Keys has Disney sold? They could have sold tens of thousands in 3 months. You're absolutely right, SJ. You know, they keep all of these numbers very close to the vest. They are not clear. They are not transparent about capacity numbers. They've never been transparent about annual pass holder numbers. There's always been estimations that the Disneyland annual pass program of years past reached over 1 million people. And that was no exaggeration. That was something that even internally, as I worked for the company for over a decade, I heard that number being thrown around by executives all the time, so I knew it to be true. However, the whole point of the Magic Key program was to keep things restricted, right? Keep things down for the sake of no, or should I say, I guess less crowding, not no crowding, but less crowding in the theme parks. So how many Dream Keys have been sold? That's a great question. We really don't know at this point. It could be tens of thousands, but to know that one key is already gone in this short amount of time is a $1,400 key. I mean, it's not cheap, and people are forking out $1,400 for it. So to know that it's up and gone this quick, I'm telling you, I think they're coming for that Believe key next. Lucy, she shares her thoughts saying, hi, Wade and company. Hey, Lucy, it seems as though there is a new and more ridiculous issues with the not so happiest place on earth. In my humble opinion, it's heartbreaking. Yeah, the news this week, the news today in particular, to all come tumbling down the way that it has. I don't know what to make of a lot of what we're seeing, especially all happening this quick after Disneyland reopened this spring. You know, here we are in fall and things are just things aren't sitting right with me. I don't know why these decisions are being made this quickly, and I'm not sure where this is going. We now see out in Walt Disney World with the Genie Plus rollout, big backlash out there as well with the now pay per ride Lightning Lane option for certain attractions. Whether or not that's worth it, whether or not the increased prices based on how busy a day is worth it too. It's coming to Disneyland very soon. That's also going to radically change the way we experience the theme parks on the West Coast. So I know, Lucy, a lot to take in at the moment. Valeria says, no, they won't be any better. Of course, relating this to reservations and if availability will become any better, as now the Dream Key has been essentially shut down for people to buy. Certainly, Dream Key holders can still use their reservations and book as far out as they'd like with the sake of what Disney allows, but will it create more of an opportunity for reservations to be plentiful? Valerie is saying, no, don't think so. Samantha says, if anything, selling out will make it worse, open up more reservations, and maybe things can balance out. Samantha, to a certain degree, I feel like, yeah, no, that's true. But now we're also seeing here in the last couple of weeks just how crazy busy it's been, just how wall-to-wall things have been. Granted, not everything is open. Granted, not all the attractions are online. Granted, not all the shows are even available. So those things that would traditionally gobble up more people are not open, and therefore more attractions are taking the burden of those people, right? There's less entertainment, less things to do. So all the attraction wait times go up because that's what people are focused on. So yeah, I don't know. It is a balancing act at this point, and we will see what they end up doing here as we march towards the holiday season. No doubt the busiest time of year at the Disneyland Resort and Walt Disney World too. So thank you for that. Albert says, reopening weekend back in May was the best time to go. 5 to 10 minute waits, except for Haunted Pirates, Indy, Snow White, and Peter Pan, of course. Yeah, no, very true. Valeria says that, it looks like they believe the Believe Key will be next. Thank you. I know, you're coming for it, aren't you, Disney fandom? You're coming for that Believe Key. So much to think about here, so much to deal with in terms of these passes. OG says, bet Dream Key is going to. No more reservations needed. Yeah. I think that, I think that we're going to see a big drop off when it comes to the reservations availability. It's already been a struggle. I think we're going to see a continued struggle now moving forward, and I think it's just going to get a little worse from here based on the fact that they're shutting down a key outright. That tells me that they know maybe the demand is too high, and the whole reason they wanted this, Magic Key system was to control the capacity, control the demand. They finally got what they wanted, but who knows when they will reopen the Dream Key for purchase once again. Diane says, I think until fully functional with parades and shows, no more reservations. Interesting take there. Green says, I think it's a knee-jerk reaction. I get the feeling they'll reopen sales once the bad PR calms down. It's certainly possible. Anything at this point, I'm trying to understand where Disney's coming from a positioning standpoint, because there is a lot of bad PR right now. And I think also the bad PR has forced their hand in reopening the tram service, or at least announcing that the tram service is coming back. A lot of people were lighting them up for that. And again, I go back to this idea that it's happening at Disneyland, but not at Walt Disney World. And that is because I think what you're witnessing here is the most vocal of all the fan bases. The Disneyland annual pass holder fan base is the most vocal fan base there is, period. They will light Disney up at a moment's notice. They've been known to do it in the past. They have done it many a times. And typically what happens is that local media, LA-based media, which are big juggernaut conglomerates, right? A lot of the LA-based media, they're big institutions. They run with those stories. They run with the backlash. They run with the heat. And so it gets Disney all this attention they don't want. So I think perhaps maybe this is what has happened, is that they felt that heat and they ended up saying, all right, let's bring that tram service back. Let's shut these people up and bring that tram service back. Whatever it took, I'm glad that it's finally coming back. Glenn says, Disney needs a reset in the upper management. Too much overthinking over there. I know, there's a lot of hate on upper management at the moment, a lot of frustration with them as well. No doubt about it, Glenn. Everybody is sort of pointing their bullseyes, or I guess, pointing their scopes, if you will, on the bullseyes of both Bob Chapek and Josh D'Amaro. And Terry says, now we learn that pass holders are second-class citizens. You know what? That Orange County Register story definitely makes you think so, doesn't it? Yeah. The fan base that has kept Disney alive to a certain degree, Disneyland that is, alive to a certain degree, cast aside in this situation. They open things up and welcome in the Magic Key holders when they need a boost in attendance, and then the moment things become busy again, cast aside to bring in those big spending out-of-towners who are buying day tickets. So thank you, everybody, for chiming in, sharing with all of your thoughts, all of your opinions when it comes to this very fascinating topic. No doubt, so much going on in the Disney park spectrum right now, including what's next, and that is parking prices have gone up, ticket prices have gone up. So if you weren't, we'll say, on the ropes yet when it comes to Disneyland, here's something that might just push you over the edge. Parking prices and ticket prices announced officially going up as of today. Let's dive into that story. The following comes to us from MSN.com. Dirk Libby writes, it's been fairly common practice to see Disney parks raise their prices about once a year. Unsurprisingly, it's been a while since the last major increase. Between parks being closed and at limited capacity, a price increase would likely have had little impact and would not have gone over well. But now, it looks like Disneyland Resort is making up for lost time, because it has announced a major increase not only to ticket prices, but parking as well. Disneyland has previously had a 5-tiered pricing structure, with tickets costing anywhere from $104 to $154 for a single day, single park ticket, and $159 to $209 for a single day ticket that allowed guests to visit both Disneyland and California Adventure on the same day. While the absolute lowest ticket price has not changed, the LA Times reports every other ticket price has increased slightly. Disneyland Resort is also adding a 6th price tier, so its busiest days are now much more expensive. A single day, single park ticket now tops out at $164. A park hopper can be as expensive as $224. This is a price increase of as much as 8% when the inflation rate in the last year, while significantly higher than usual, was still less than 6%. But ticket prices themselves aren't the only increase that's happening. Parking for the resorts is increasing significantly from $25 a day to $30 a day. Parking options at Disneyland Resort hotels have also increased. Hotel parking was previously $25 for self-parking or $35 for valet parking. Those prices are now $40 and $50 respectively. Parking has been its own problem at Disneyland Resort. The trams that transported guests from Mickey and Friends and the Pixar Palace parking garages have not been running since the park reopened last spring. This has meant guests have needed to walk the entire distance, which is significant, especially for those with mobility issues. One piece of good news that arrived today is that the trams will be back in operation early next year, though an exact date has not been revealed. The price increase itself is far from surprising, though its timing perhaps is. Disneyland Resort isn't firing on all cylinders yet since reopening. Some entertainment options like the Nighttime Spectaculars, Fantasmic, and World of Color are still not available to see, so Disneyland now costs more than it did, but guests are getting less than they once did for their money. It'll be interesting to see if this has any noticeable impact on attendance, but previously price increases haven't really caused people to stay home, even though that is certainly part of the goal of such increases. The price increase helps account for some guests who choose not to go, and an emptier park with shorter lines tends to make for happier guests who then spend more money on food and merchandise than they might have otherwise. The price increase also comes on the eve of Disneyland Resort implementing the new Disney Genie system, which also includes new line skipping features that will also cost guests more money. There have been a lot of complaints from fans that Disneyland is just getting too expensive, that every little thing is being charged for now, and the cost is harming the magic. Will this be the price increase that finally causes those guests to stop going? We'll have to wait and see. Once again, thank you, Dirk Libby of MSN.com, for that story. This is something that typically doesn't happen until the new year, right? So this is something, these price updates, these price changes, they don't usually happen until a new year. And yes, in the past, by the way, let me just correct that right off the bat. There is always a spike before the holiday season. However, what I mean is these prices don't typically go up until after the new year. There's always a secondary, usually 2 a year, right? So you have typically the winter months, the later winter months into early spring, so just before the spring rush, and then you have just before your big holiday rush. However, as mentioned in the story, not everything's even being offered yet, right? They're still in a phased reopening by their own admission at Disneyland. Disney executives say that. So how on earth are they justifying a price increase for tickets, park hoppers, parking? It just seems a little short-sighted right off the bat. I get you're a business. I get you're making money. I get that the plan is to kick that money up. You know, you want that income, I should say, up. You want the shareholders happy. You want incremental revenue. You want to find ways to add more icing on the cake. Well, guess what? Now we're in a place where you're announcing all of these things at once. It looks really bad, as it does every time they want to raise prices. People always go crazy, but now you don't really have much of a reason to raise prices. You don't really have a lot you can point to and say, well, look at all the things that we've done for you recently, and look at all the things that we're offering for you now. We're paying more now at this very point for far less. That is a fact. That's not conjecture, right? That's not exaggeration. We're paying more for less. And people are very upset, very heated about this, as they should be. You know, I keep mentioning the Disneyland in-park update that we shared earlier today on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel. And it's getting all kinds of fired up responses too. A lot of people sharing their thoughts, a lot of people sharing just how enraged they are by this news, because we covered this, you know, in brief form over there and shared with folks, you know, exactly what they can expect when it comes to pricing. And somebody over on that video said, his name is Rick, he says, for all they are charging and how much profit they make, there's no excuse for the monorail to debut like that, because we showed that the monorail at Disneyland Park, which returned last week, is basically the cabins are in shambles. Things are disgusting, right? So paying more, getting a little less. Mel over in that comment section says, this is embarrassing for Disneyland. They're often regarded as the leader in theme park experiences. A dirty, broken monorail brings the illusion down to lower tier theme parks. Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. It's getting more and more difficult to justify what Disney is doing. I'm a very level-headed guy. I've seen it from the inside. I know what they're thinking most of the time. They don't have the upper hand here. They don't have the upper-handed argument here. Ika Rodriguez says $164. The ticket prices are getting ridiculous. If they want us to spend more in the parks, then raising prices is not the way to go. I figured they'd raise the parking like they do every year or so, but I was hoping they wouldn't. $25 to park was already too much. You know, I agree with that. I think the parking prices, by the way, I haven't parked at Disneyland probably in over 2.5 years. Like, I have not intentionally parked at Disneyland specifically because I refuse to pay the parking fees. It's ridiculous. $25 was way too much. Those are fees, by the way. You look into Disneyland's relationship with the city of Anaheim. Disney pays $1 to rent that parking garage. It actually belongs to the city of Anaheim. It was funded by tax dollars. It was it was created at one point by tax money and is essentially rented out and operated by Disney. And that pricing, $25 per car. The Mickey and Friends parking garage originally held 10,000 cars. And then they added the Pixar wing of the garage. $30. $30 a car. I stopped paying it. I refused. I said no more. It is cheaper to Uber or Lyft, which I'm sure is what they would like to see more people do, because parking is such a taxing infrastructure for them to begin with. But I'm not going to pay $30 just to park my car. That's an optional fee that Disney can choose to elevate if they want to. They can choose to kick that up, and they chose to kick that up for some reason. You know, the other day, I went to buy a smart water inside Disneyland. It almost cost me $10. A smart water, a water in a bottle, cost, it was $9.50 is what it ended up being. And even the girl that was selling it to me, that poor cast member, when she said $9.50, I said, "Come again?" Because it wasn't posted anywhere. And she goes, "Yeah, I know." Like, even she knew. And I get it. You know, if you're going to theme parks, you're paying inflated theme park prices. I understand that. I've always understood that. You know, don't buy things at the theme parks because, you know, if it's too expensive for you, don't buy it, right? Stay away. I completely understand that. I've always thought that. It's up to you and whether or not you're going to plunk down money. You don't have to. It's your choice. And I chose that I wanted a smart water. But when she said $9.50, I was like, "Are you there? No way am I paying $9.50 for a bottle of water." And I'm not going to drink Dasani because that's like making yourself more thirsty somehow. I don't know if you've ever done a few swigs of Dasani, but more often than not, I'm more thirsty after the fact. I don't know how that happens. Anyway, I chose not to. I'm now saying no. When it comes to purchases I used to make, I'm now saying no for the very first time. I didn't think I'd be here in this place anytime soon. I didn't think I would start feeling this way, but now I am. Very interesting that we are now in this place. And now it's time to talk back. I want to hear what you are thinking. What is on your mind when it comes to theme park ticket and parking prices having gone up? What point is the cost too high for you? $30 for parking? $164 at the highest level for one-day, one-park tickets to get into Disneyland? When do you tap out? When do you say, "No more, I can't do it. This is beyond what I am willing to pay"? I want to know what your tap out point is. I want to know when you say enough is enough and what that dollar amount is. Please drop it in our comment section. Whether you're watching on Facebook Live or YouTube, we want to thank you for being a part of Disney News Talk Live. It's about your opinions, your Disney Parks experience. This is the Kingdom Report. I'm Wade Heath, and we have plenty more coming your way right after this. Disney News Talk Live. Thanks so much for being a part of the broadcast. If you haven't done so already, a thumbs up is always appreciated. A subscribe means so much more. And that notification bell, well, it lets you know when we have a new update for you. And whenever we're going live, you will be updated as well. Make sure that you drop any of those down in the YouTube bar that does such a thing. We greatly appreciate it. And my friends, there's a lot of news that we're covering today because Disneyland specifically is where all the news is happening. So it's a very Disneyland focused show at the moment. We wanted to know what your thoughts are on all of the ticket price increases as well as the parking price increases, in addition to all the other news that's been happening today. Dan says, now I'm really happy about my tickets for our February trip last week. Dan, you so lucked out. You got so fortunate to buy those tickets when you did. You never know when these things are coming. It just happens. It looks like Aaliyah says, no words. The end is coming. I don't know what the end necessarily is when it comes to Disney parks, but you have me terrified right now. Yes, you do. Glenn says, Universal and Six Flags can charge more for parking because they're a single-day park. Disneyland is multi-day, and it gets extremely expensive for several days. You got a good point there, Glenn. Absolutely. Valeria says, I wonder will attendance for non-pass holders decrease after the holidays? Absolutely. You know, and that's the thing. Just before the break, I was kind of mentioning that Disneyland always turns to the annual pass holder base when they're kind of desperate, right? There are moments throughout the year where attendance drops, things become far less impacted capacity-wise, and they want to keep their level of attendance up. They want to keep people buying things. They want to keep people in the park for the sake of potentially purchasing food, merchandise, that sort of thing. And so they will cater during certain times of the year to annual pass holders. And that typically after the holidays is when they do it. Not only to the APs, doing special events and things to try and get them into the park during those less visited times, but also they cater to especially Southern California and the people that don't have annual passes with special ticket deals. Every year at the same time, that is what happens. Now, naturally, this past year, that was something that could not happen, but almost like clockwork, that happened. So definitely something that they end up doing along the line. Brian says, what needs to happen is a raising of the key holder reservation cap. You know what? And everybody's saying it. However, Brian, I just don't know, based on how busy the parks have been in the last couple of weeks, it's gotten to like a fever pitch capacity-wise. It's gotten really crazy busy. So now they're in a situation where, okay, do they raise the key holder reservation caps? Because they clearly have a lot of space available on the day ticket purchasing side, right? They admitted that. The Orange County Register story said so. So they have it. They've got space. So what are they waiting for? If indeed they have room, why aren't they allowing more key holders on in? Now, I get it. You want the big spending out-of-town tourists that buy the day tickets. I totally understand. That's just good business. But at this point, if it really doesn't matter in the end and capacity is already feeling wall-to-wall and everybody's, crowded and in each other's space again, what are they waiting for? They're just making more people unhappy. At any rate. SJ says, am I missing something? Disney did raise prices when they opened in May. They sold tickets at the same price without trams, max pass, PhotoPass, reduced park hopping. SJ, I don't believe so. Maybe you can find me that information, but I don't believe that they raised prices in May. In fact, I remember there being specifically the narrative that they weren't going to raise prices right now, that things were going to remain what they were for the sake of rebuilding, reopening, phased reopening processes, that sort of thing. So I don't believe that is the case, but as always, could be wrong. Maybe something did happen along those lines, and maybe there was an uptick. I just don't recall that happening. So thank you for chiming in. Todd says, Disneyland, Bob Chapek, Josh Tomorrow. Maybe a slogan of charging more for less since 2021. Oh, very clever. Thank you, Todd. Let's see. Nine Tin Dork says, if I have to pay more to go to Disneyland, then I will spend less in the park, like Genie Plus, a sit-down restaurant, and snacks. You know what? I think that's what's going to happen. More people are going to just spend less on other things. If you're spending more to get in the gate, you have less money to spend when you're in the park. That's just simple dollars and cents. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts there. Miss California Gal says, Disney is not obligated to justify the price increases. They are a for-profit company, and if people are willing to pay the higher prices, they'll keep raising prices. You're absolutely right, Miss California. Amen to that. That is exactly what's going on. Disney is, in fact, raising prices because they think the market will continue paying such prices. They think the demand is high enough that this is acceptable and it's cool, and they're just going to move forward, and they will continue to have crowding issues, and they will continue to having demand issues, and it won't be that big of a deal. That is exactly what they're thinking right now. You are right. Now, are they obligated to justify their price increases? No, but they always do. Remember this, Miss California. In every instance where they put out a press release that prices are going up in any capacity, and every single time that they announce that ticket prices are going up, they have a standard PR statement. It's become almost completely predictable, the way in which it's handled. There is always a Disneyland Resort spokesperson that puts out a PR release right alongside the news that ticket prices have gone up to justify why the prices have gone up and how much is offered at the Disneyland Resort that just isn't offered anywhere else. And they always make the comparisons, by the way, of major Broadway shows, how much you pay for a night out, how much you pay for a basketball game, how much you pay to go to a sporting event in general, and how you get a full day's worth of experiences with over 40 plus attractions here and all these shows here and all of these, and they give you the numbers and they justify it every time because they know what the blowback is going to be. This time around, they don't have the upper hand in justification like they normally do, because usually they come from a place that's okay and they can justify it, and you can look at what they put out and go, okay, I guess that's sort of true. Yeah, all right, that's true. That's true. At the end of the day, we're all going to complain, but we're going to pay those prices. We're going to go back in because what they're saying is true. And I can spend 12 hours in a Disney park, on the days where they're maxed out hour-wise. I can spend 12 hours in a Disney park and definitely get my money's worth. They didn't justify it this time. They did not put that out there this time. And there's a reason for it, and it's because they cannot justify it this time. They have increased prices at a time where they are providing far less. And that is not what Disney is known for. Disney has been always known for exceeding expectations. That has been a Walt Disney edict. That has been a Disney corporate edict for decades, especially Disneyland. The love and care of Disneyland and the people that lead and run that resort have always protected it, have always safeguarded it, have always ensured that they exceeded guest expectations, because that was ingrained from the beginning. That was a Walt edict from the start, and that was passed down for generations. I know because I lived it. They can't justify it now. And that is very troubling, to think that they're throwing it out there. And I get it. They're a big conglomerate. They're a big business. But Disneyland is personal to a lot of people. And this, to a certain degree, and I saw it written in our comments on our Disneyland in-park update video, is an insult. But thank you, Miss California Gal, for sharing your thoughts. I do appreciate you chiming in. It means a lot. Raw says, dirty monorail, long walks, sounds like Six Flags over Yuma. Oh, Raw, thank you for that. Kimberly says, Dasani has salt in it. Yes, I know. There's sodium in it. That's why I never feel satisfied after I drink it. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that when it comes to buying the ridiculously expensive Smart Water, I went to buy one the other day. $9.50 is what they were charging in the park. $9.50 at a vending cart inside Disneyland. The other option was Dasani, And I'm not going to drink Dasani because I will get more thirsty, I have found. So I figured, forget it. I just went and found a water fountain like the good old days. All right, and moving along here, Chad says $400 for a 90-minute music concert, $300 for a ball game ticket. Disneyland still seems like a better option. You know what? And, like I said, Chad, when it comes down to it, this is something that quite often Disneyland and the PR team always point to and say, yeah, look at this over here, huh? Yeah, look at all of these things that you could do for a far more expensive price tag, and you get far less. But they didn't run with that this time because they know they're offering less than they ever have. And they're charging you more for it. It's not something Disney does. But I appreciate it, Chad. Thank you so much for watching. Melissa says, Walt would be appalled. He may. I know. I never like to get in the game of like, what would Walt think? And, he's turning over in his grave, or he's churning in his urn, more specifically. I don't like to get into that game. But I often wonder what Walt would think about today's product, if he'd be really proud, especially given the fact that, there's so much going on globally with the company, and there's so many different pots that it's involved in. Definitely wonder what Walt would think of the company as a whole right now. SJ says, remember, Walt built the park as a place parents could ride rides and make memories with their children. Very true. There was also a time where the entrance fee was dirt cheap and you paid per ride. And with Genie Plus, I've heard it said many times, even in this type of show atmosphere, I believe Terry Thompson, one of our viewers, I believe she was the one that said, it's almost like they're going back to the A through E ticket with the Genie Plus service, right? You're paying per ride. Isn't that kind of how it used to go? So makes you wonder, that's for sure. Todd says, SJ, my kids are older now, but I can't imagine trying to go to the theme parks and make memories with the way the parks are being run right now. Noses and phones, cost of dinner versus cost of souvenirs, etc. And Doc says, where's the Disney family? Aren't they involved with the company? They certainly would follow Walt's wishes. Doc, here's the thing. No, they're not. The Disney family is no longer involved in the organization. After Roy Disney, the nephew, after Roy Disney passed away, that was it when it came to the family members that were actively involved within the organization. And let's remember what Roy Disney did. Roy led the renaissance of the late 80s of ousting the CEO, Ron Miller, when Disney was kind of at one of its lowest points, and brought in Michael Eisner. It was because of that Roy that Michael Eisner was brought in, Jeffrey Katzenberg to run the studios, you had Frank Wells as president, and then you watched as the renaissance of the late 80s moved into the blossoming, beautiful renaissance of the 90s, and you saw Disney parks expand like never before. You saw animated films hit a stride they had never hit, at least since Walt Disney had been alive. And then you also saw Roy Disney tell Michael Eisner, you've gotten too big for your britches. Things are cratering, because things got real bad after Frank Wells, the president, passed away. The story is fascinating. And Michael Eisner kind of lost his mind a little bit there towards the end. And Roy led a shareholder revolt to remove Michael Eisner from power. That led to the ushering in of Bob Iger, who was president of ABC. Disney had acquired ABC, obviously. And you watched as Bob Iger took the reins after Michael Eisner, and we watched the last, it was about 15, 18 years, become one of the biggest boom periods for Disney on a global scale. And now, as Iger exits a little later this year, Bob Chapek, Captain Charisma as I like to call him, as Bob Chapek moves into place and firmly plants his legacy on the Disney product and experience, there is no Disney family involved that has any power anymore. You have Disney family ambassadors and people that will show up for special events, but with Roy Disney out of commission, Roy Disney passed away, remember. That was the last of the Disney family that were involved in the day-to-day. And when Roy passed, that concerned me. Now, remember, at the time, when Roy passed away, Bob Iger was seen as, a fantastic leader and a soft-spoken guy that allowed creative people to be creative. And, you saw a boom period for Disney. You saw a lot of great things happen. However, my concern became without a Disney family member actively involved in the organization, and without somebody like a Bob Iger who seemed at least level-headed, what happens when the next big monster, the Michael Eisner who's lost his mind, certainly he's regained it since, what happens when the next big monster comes in? What happens when the Disney company loses what made it special? There's no family member involved to lead the shareholders into revolt. There's no Disney family member involved to say, this is wrong. This isn't who we are. This isn't what this company was meant to be. We got to stop. The Disney family is no longer a part of the Disney organization. So as scary as that is, it's now up to us to keep the legacy of Walt Disney alive. I say it at the end of every Kingdom Report live broadcast. If you've ever watched our live studio show and you've seen my ugly mug talking in person, along with the more beautiful mugs of Tyler Crouch, Katrina Manzoni, Garrett Hassel, you've heard me say at the end of every broadcast, the legacy of Walt Disney, it lives on because of people like you and me, and by God, that is the only way the legacy of Walt Disney will live on, because no Disney family members are involved anymore. Doc, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Adventures in the Park says, I'll go 50 times with my Dream Key before it expires, so I'll definitely be ahead. Well, look at you, Adventures in the Park. Thank you for that. And of course, Ralph says, gas prices are going up, groceries too. It doesn't surprise that Disney follows along. You know what, Ralph? I don't disagree, especially with the rate of inflation exploding the way that it has been, and all of the concerns that we're seeing, financially speaking, not just here in the United States, but around the world. However, I think about things like, your parking situation, the parking fee, kicking that up to $30. Again, I go back to this idea that is icing on the cake money. If you want to raise prices on things that have real tangible value, great. You're kicking it up to $30 a car now for a space that you pay $1 a year to lease. That just seems kind of greedy. $30? I get it. We're SoCal car culture. I get it. Right? We're a theme park environment down here in SoCal. You've got other theme parks charging maybe even more. But $30 at a time where you're offering less, it just rubs me the wrong way. All right. And Terry says, the Disney ethos is fading away. No one left with those Disney memories. You know what, Terry? I worked with people that worked directly with Walt Disney. It was one of the greatest honors of my life. And while at the organization, I worked with folks that told me stories about what it was like listening to him, what it was like learning from him. And they passed those stories down. And I got to tell you, they've retired. They've retired since. They're not there anymore. Those stories aren't being passed down anymore unless the handful of people that sought them out. By the way, I had to seek them out because those people that learned from Walt, they're very humble individuals. They didn't want to necessarily talk about it all the time. I had to drag it out of them, and I found it fascinating. And unfortunately, the Disney ethos, as you say, is fading away. And it's a very delicate balance now, specifically because we are in a place where you have one end of Disney expanding like gangbusters. You have the growth that I'm sure Walt Disney would have always wanted, right? Certainly Walt Disney would have, it was probably beyond his wildest dreams, how big Disney has become. And you have growth in all the sectors. You have growth in all the business divisions. You have growth all over the place. So you have that on one hand, but then you have what makes Disney special on the other. And I've always wondered myself, can all of this expansion, can all of this growth be sustained and still keep the same level of quality and consistency that Disney has been known for? Can it endure? Because my biggest fear is that you hire a whole bunch of people to make all this expansion happen that just don't have the same commitment to what Disney stands for, to what Disney has been in so many people's lives. And then it slowly starts to decline by degrees. And dare I say, we're seeing a little bit of that happening already in the theme park sector, both in Walt Disney World and in Disneyland. Melissa says, too bad someone from the Disney family can't get back into the running of the business. You know, it's interesting, Melissa. The one person that's, I think, been the most vocal about things happens to be, I think it's Walt's granddaughter, if I recall correctly. She's always out in front of things and being very vocal, and she's very anti-Disney executive bonuses, and she's very loud when it comes to certain issues that are important to her. But she's the only one that sort of bomb throws, as I like to call it, throws those big bombs that gather a bunch of attention because she says something outrageous to get everybody's attention and says, this is not the company that Walt would have wanted. She's the only person that I know that does that now, especially after Walt's daughter has passed. Both daughters are gone, and there's just nobody really involved anymore. I think it's Roy's son does appearances for the company, but he's more of just a meet and greet atmosphere character, if you will. Okay, not to minimize his role in anything, but he doesn't really do much beyond that. He just kind of shows up at special events and waves and says hello and poses for photos. There's not really anybody involved, but I agree. It's too bad that somebody from the Disney family is not more involved. And unfortunately, it sounds like much of the Disney family, they're not in good places either. Even the folks that you might want to consider like, hey, these folks should get involved again. These folks should hold office in the company or do things in the company. There aren't a whole lot of people that have very good rap sheets even. It's a really unfortunate story. So at any rate, I appreciate you, Melissa, for sharing your thoughts. All right, I went a little long there. I definitely have some things on my mind, clearly, when it comes to the Disney quality, consistency, and passion, especially at a place like Disneyland. I've spent so much of my life making Disneyland what it is. I've contributed, what little I have been able to over the course of a decade plus of my life there, because it is so important to me. At any rate, I feel like it is time to move along to our final story of the broadcast, and that is some good news. While we have definitely plunked down on Disneyland Trams coming back after all this time, returning to us in early 2022. We've definitely touched on Magic Key sellouts now happening with the top tier key, as well as parking prices going up, ticket prices going up. There is some good news, and we shouldn't lose sight of the positives as well. And that is that Disneyland staffing is finally getting back to near where it used to be. Tremendous positives when it comes to staffing levels rising. Let's dive in to that story. The following comes to us from the OC Register. They write, Disneyland has added 15,000 employees to its workforce in the 6 months since returning from an extended COVID-19 pandemic closure during the continuing phased reopening of the Anaheim theme park resort. The Disneyland Resort has 25,000 cast members currently working and plans to hire hundreds more each week, with a job fair planned for early next month, according to Disneyland officials. That's 6,000 more Disneyland employees than were on the payroll in August, 10,000 more than June, and 15,000 more than March, when the theme park resort first began emerging from a year-long coronavirus closure. But Disneyland still has 7,000 fewer employees than the 32,000 on staff before the pandemic, when the Disney theme park resort was the largest employer in Orange County. Disneyland has brought back nearly 80% of its pre-pandemic workforce, with more returning to work each week as additional attractions, restaurants, and shops reopen as part of the phased reopening of the parks. The in-person job fair at the Disneyland Hotel Exhibit Hall on November 9th and 10th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. will offer full-time and part-time positions in the food and beverage, hotel, facilities, and custodial divisions. Disneyland was forced to fire and furlough thousands of cast members during the COVID-19 pandemic after state officials didn't allow California theme parks to reopen for more than a year. Disneyland and Disney California Adventure reopened on April 30th after a 412-day COVID-19 closure that resulted in job losses and work interruptions for thousands of cast members. Prior to the layoffs and furloughs, Disney employed more than 100,000 at its U.S. theme parks, 32,000 at Disneyland, and 77,000 at Walt Disney World. Disney laid off 28,000 employees and furloughed 37,000 in fall 2020. By the end of 2020, the Disneyland Resort had laid off more than 11,500 employees and furloughed thousands more. Disneyland union members have regularly held rallies since the parks reopened to call on Disney to restore more jobs and raise pay. Disney officials said during the company's most recent quarterly earnings call that the Disneyland and Walt Disney World resorts are expected to be fully staffed by the end of the year, saying, quote, "We're expecting to have our parks domestically be fully staffed up by the end of this calendar year," Disney CFO Christine McCarthy said on the call. "We're going to be increasing capacities as we have the demand." Once again, thank you, OC Register, for those words. So some good news there. Definitely nice things to be able to touch on. 80% of the workforce is now fully expected to, come back into play at the Disneyland Resort. I know, trying to finally get it to a complete and full 100% by the end of the year is a dream, I hope, that is realized. I hope it does come true. Certainly, it is an environment that is ripe for more cast members. That way they can open more up. That way they can do more things. That is certainly something that I think we are all interested in. And, bringing more shows back, bringing more attractions that remain closed. I touch on it in the Disneyland in-park updates all the time. Things that remain closed: the Tomorrowland Terrace stage, an outdoor stage that has complete ability to be utilized right now, because if you want to talk health and safety, it's an outdoor stage. It's one of the few stages that really works. So that's a space that can be utilized. The Magic Eye Theater, or the Tomorrowland Theater, I guess is what it's now being called. That too is something that is worth reopening. I don't know what they're going to show there. Path of the Jedi was the most recent thing that they had in that space. But you just think about these other items, these other places that Disneyland has yet to bring back, and you definitely have some room for some cast members to come on in and retake the reins of their old positions. I'm also looking forward to the day when guest relations can start doing these specialized tours again. They're already doing VIP tours. That's been back for a while. But they are still without doing the Christmas tours, the Halloween tours, those specialty public tours, the Walk and Waltz footstep type tours that I know get high marks from guests. So, there are so many different elements that still remain offline as part of the phased reopening. It's great to see that 80% of staffing is returning, and that the ideal amount of 100%, hopefully by year end, is something that they will be able to do. And this is something also that I wanted to ask you. It's time to talk back. Do you think full capacity will return by the end of the year? And how do you think that will impact park reservations? So we've heard many times, haven't we, that Disney Parks and the leadership, Josh D'Amaro as chairman, and then you have your CEO, Bob Chapek, both saying in different interviews at different times, multiple times, that they love the ability to have theme park reservations, and they love the ability to know what to expect when it comes to the after effects of park reservations. So we don't anticipate that the park reservations are going to go anywhere, even at 100% capacity. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that fuller, maybe that's the right word, fuller capacity is about to come online towards the end of the year, beginning of next year? Will full capacity return before the end of 2021? And will the park reservations overall open up for Magic Key holders? We know that it's not really a problem for day ticket holders, but will we see more park reservations? And that's coast to coast. They want to get full capacity back on both coasts. So will park reservations be a problem moving forward, do you think? And will we see full capacity by the end of 2021? Very interested in hearing what's on your mind when it comes to that question. All right, my friends, stick around. We are going to wrap things up and take your comments straight ahead.
You're lucky it didn't spot you. Take those turbo lifts and stay out of trouble.
Hey, you're not authorized. Wait, it goes in the freezer.
Cover is blown. Find an alternate route. Who picked these two droids anyway?
Fire! If anyone's packing a blaster, now's a good time. Ah! The escape pod's just below us. Wait, why are you going up? I said down. Up is bad. Up is real bad.
Disney News Talk Live. Again, thank you for being a part of tonight's broadcast. It's rare that we do an evening edition of Disney News Talk Live, so when we do, it means a lot that you are taking time out of your evening, or if you're watching this after the fact, that you are watching on demand and sharing your thoughts in the comment section down below. After all, any of these questions, any of these things, they are meant to elicit a response from you. All of these topics, all of these stories. If you didn't catch the live broadcast, if you're not a part of what you end up seeing on screen when it comes to comments, we do want to hear from you. So please make sure you respond to a lot of these questions down in our comment section. This is how we get a gauge as to what the Disney Parks fans are thinking and where we should make our content, what we should make our content surround next. So I asked you just before we took our little break there, what you think when it comes to all of the talk of capacity being filled and full capacity being reached by the end of 2021. Do you think that that's something that's going to happen? And number two, what will the impact be on theme park reservations at that time? Terry says, with the increased revenue, I really want the company to pay their cast members more. They are the true source of that magical Disney experience. The company really, really needs to get that. I don't disagree with you at all. Hearing about cast members living in their cars and not being able to afford, especially Orange County rent, is a very difficult thing, and certainly increased cast member pay rates is something that I know has always been very important to all of us that visit the Disneyland Resort and the theme parks, because that trickle-down effect really does matter, doesn't it? Knowing that the cast members are happy and healthy and being paid well, that certainly translates into a much better guest experience, that's for sure. Thank you for that. Valeria says, I don't think fuller capacity will return in 2021, but perhaps sometime in 2022. Maybe a slow burn. Maybe we will see full capacity be reached once again, perhaps around late winter, do you think? Maybe early spring, we shall see. Todd says, based on the crowds I've experienced my last 3 visits to the parks, I'm surprised they aren't already at full capacity. You know, Todd, I kind of agree with you here. It feels that way, doesn't it? Especially with the wait times the way that they have been. Wait times have been especially big lately. And no doubt that does happen when not everything is open, not everything is available, still plenty of things offline that could easily gobble up crowds that are forcing them to other rides and thus causing that trickle effect of, okay, now ride wait times are through the roof. So while we see it be very sort of in demand, while we see the in-demand times, we see it be very in demand on the wait time boards, sometimes it feels far less crowded crowd-wise, specifically in certain lands, even though wait times for certain rides are astronomical. Now, I will say there have been several days recently, too, in my own experience, Todd, where I have also felt that the crowds are almost suffocating in certain instances. So appreciate you sharing that. Adventures in the Park says, I'm there almost every Saturday, and it looks like it's full capacity now. Yeah, I feel like the weekends especially, right? There's a reason why those Magic Key holders do not have the ability to book any sort of weekends in the near future, all the way through the end of the year. It's probably because there's an overabundance of people trying to show up on Saturday and Sunday. Thank you for that. Melissa says, I don't think reservations will go away. Disney likes the capacity control. Amen, Melissa. They certainly do. They've vocalized it. I don't think this is going anywhere anytime soon. A-Train says, greetings from Redding, California. We are going to Disneyland during Thanksgiving break. We are DVC members at the Grand Californian. Haven't been there in 3 years. Can't wait. Not looking forward to the crowds. Yeah, A-Train, no doubt about it. The Thanksgiving week traditionally is quite crowded, typically that weekend. In particular, I should say. Thanksgiving going into the weekend is usually gangbuster crazy, but usually the couple days leading up to that, not terribly crowded, not terribly out of control. But this will be the first time that we see how Disneyland manages the crowds with the reservation system during the holidays. So I think this will be a really great sort of opportunity to witness what Disneyland does with this ability to manage things, what Disneyland envisions as being the perfect amount of crowds for the Thanksgiving week. So it'll definitely be a eye-opening experience for all of us. A-Train, thank you so much for watching and for sharing your comments. Doc says, we're being apped to death, and I don't even have a cell phone. I'm doomed. Yes, yeah. Apps everywhere. Disneyland app, Walt Disney World app. That's for sure. The My Disney Experience app, Genie, Plus service. I definitely see this a lot more. Every time I'm in the park, I feel like every third person has their nose in a phone and nobody's really enjoying their surroundings, which is what a theme park is. So, but I get it. Disney is now requiring so much of us to take place for our own benefit on the screen, right? We have to book things through the screen. We have to look at things through the screen in order to get the most out of our experience. So I understand that, to be sure. And Todd finishes up by saying, Adventureland has always felt crowded, and obviously with the Haunted Mansion overlay, New Orleans Square gets crowded, but 45 minutes for Pirates now, not what I remember, rather, more like 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, and I always take that, Todd, as a really great gauge as to whether or not the parks are crazy crowded. I look at Pirates of the Caribbean's wait time. And that's because Pirates is traditionally one of the most efficient attractions in all of Disneyland. And if that ride has a commanding wait time of 40 minutes or more, I know that the park is busy. I know that the park is booming. So good for you for figuring that out as well. That's a really great thing to be able to use as a gauge. Certainly something that I've always thought makes a big difference in understanding what the crowds are truly like. All right, my friends, I so appreciate you taking the time out of your evening once again, or if you're watching on demand, taking the time out of your day to watch Disney News Talk Live and be a part of the discussion. As always, leave your comments down below if you're watching on demand to all of our subjects, all of our news topics. We do read them. We do respond to as many as possible. We do want to know what's on your mind and what your perspective is, because now more than ever, your perspective does matter. For the Kingdom Report, I'm Wade Heath. We will see you next time for another edition of Disney News Talk Live.